What we're going to do this time is a little speed run. I figured I've done enough like screen capture videos that you know this particular screen very well. So what I'm doing is I'm going to kind of back up a little bit so you can kind of see my hands, kind of see both screens. And now you can kind of see how I use both screens, how I use my Tartarus over here, how I use the, I switched to the Basilisk because they kind of messed up the Death Adder for me. And I'm kind of liking this now. It's pretty good. But anyway, and this is mostly for, there's a couple homies at my work that for some reason, they've decided to put themselves through the mental anguish of trying to do what I do. So they're kind of learning the macros and where things are and how it kind of works. And so how to make a box and those types of things. So this SAC Health Systems directional sign, whatever, I thought would be a good candidate. It's non-illuminated. And so I thought I would do also to see if I could do a speed run, just kind of go through it as fast as possible. It's got a couple little challenges when it's got an offset box like that. It's, a little something you got to think about rather than just being a single, box. It will have a post down the bottom. Now, I did kind of cheat in that there was some questions about this sign earlier. So I have seen the sign. But because quickly I assessed that it's just, basic sign, I didn't really put much thought into it. Usually what I do is if I have a sign that's going to be very challenging, I try to look at it early. And my boss, people are at work kind of know that too. So now they kind of give it to me a couple of days ahead. They go, hey, go ahead and chew on this. See, that way I can start figuring out how we're going to mount it, how it's going to light, access, stuff like that. Something like this, though, I didn't really need to kind of preload it and kind of chew on it. So I'm going to be making like my decisions cold based on the experience I've already had with some of these signs that have like a weird offset like that. You get a couple different choices if you want to make this box kind of like an L that sits on top, but then you have to fake up the front because it pokes out the front there. Or do you choose to chop it out and then make a separate box that sits on another box and then dummy this up? So anyway, so it'll be interesting to kind of figure that out. But I'm just going to go start to finish. I don't know if I'll go the complete way though. Maybe I'll break it up into a couple, but we'll see how long this goes. So anyway, so the first thing I do is ask for a full size. So I did already bring this over to a full size, bring the full size into my work spot. So that's what you do, right? If you open a document from someone else, then the nudge and all that other stuff and all the things you do, like line thickness and your default fonts and everything, that is all theirs. So you need to copy paste whatever you're going to work on and put it into your own document, start a new document and save it. That way the full size still exists and it hasn't been changed. And now I'm working from what they gave me as the full size. And then I work from here. So that's what I'm doing. And this becomes what I call my back page, like my last page. And then I start to just make pages go essentially to the left, like page 1, page 2, page 3 are this way. And then that way page 4 is the last. So I save this as it is and it gives it all the information from like the permit drawing basically. So it's non-illuminated, single-sided. It says that, now it does say thick cast acrylic, but the conversation that I was part of said the boss wants to do it in 1/4 inch. Aluminum, not acrylic. So all of this is going to be flat cutout letters. That's what we call them, FCOL, FCOL. So flat cutout letters, stud mount letters, however you want to talk about it. Also, the other question I had that I got answered again. So I'm not seeing this sign exactly cold, but I haven't really thought about it. But I did ask whether the back needs to come off, because if it's a high crime area, the decision needs to be made whether do these need to be nailed down from the backside with like a screw or a nut? That way you can't easily pull them off. But that means you have to make this back removable and it's a little bit more, you got to screw holes, you got to lay all that out. A little more work. It's not like crazy amount, but it is something you have to decide. Or if these are going to be surface mount from the front with some silicone and then just leave them, then we can essentially seal this up with, the skins can be completely permanent, and then out to paint it goes. And it's a little more easy that way. But it also looks nicer because that way the prep department can get crazy with Bondo, make it look all clean, no seams, everything will just be nice. So that was the decision, is we are going to do 1/4-inch aluminum flat cutout letters, but we're going to go ahead and just silicone them on. And we maybe make them a little tighter. So I'll show you how I could do that. So I do have a little information already. So it's not completely cold. Now, so let's get cracking. Let's get into it. Let's get after it. So what we do is now I go from here and I transfer what I need to the next page. We can get rid of these pages here. These are just to prove a point. So this right here, and this. So what I'll do is I'll grab the front view. And I don't necessarily need all of the measurements, but I'm going to go ahead and grab those anyway. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab the side view. Now, as I've always said, the sign is designed from the front view. You know, it's like, ooh, that's cool. Lay it out. You got this little, you know, that kick out over there, that kick out over there, offset. You got this over here. This is where it's designed. But until you know how wide the sign is, you can't build it. So the sign is designed from the front, and it's built from the side. I need to know, you know, and also, does this offset go to the back here, which it doesn't. So you need to know those things. So you can't just build a sign from here without knowing that. So I grab both of those from here, and I don't necessarily need this because that's the back side. It may mix the front side. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to hit copy. I'm going to paste that over. Boom. Now this is going to be my main work page. I can change the size of it. I might just change the size of it just because. I'll maybe go 800 by 600, but it's already there. So maybe I'll go 1,000 just to give myself more room. But I don't think I'll need it. We'll see. We'll just keep it at 800 by 600. That is my default page size because I'm working full size. So if you work in my documents, when you open it, it's going to be 800 by 600 by default. So we go ahead and save that. Also, I'm going to go ahead and call this work page because you can see page 2. Page 1 will be work page. So if you go to exporter, which you should probably start using, is I've got WP, which is work page. If I hit that, then it names that work page. Otherwise, like an animal, you got to pull this down. You got to say rename page. You got to type it with your meat fingers. And you have to touch the keyboard. It's gross. We don't want to touch keyboard. We're still in open warfare against keyboards. Okay, so we have this now. Now the other issue is when you're bringing this in, you know, it's no fault of anyone, but this is going to be from the permit drawings, and the permit drawings are to scale because they need to go on a piece of 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17. So they don't work graphics. Pretty much, it does not work in full size. They work in scale. 1.5 equals a foot, whatever. 3 inches equals a foot. So when they bring this to full size, like I asked them to, and that way they can, you know, kill all the fonts, make sure everything's all converted to curves. But the other issue is that everything's not, it's just a little off. So if you look up here, you know, we got 26.9999989. What I like to do is keep these measurements for a minute just to confirm. So they do want 27, and it's 26.999. So we're going to clean that up. And they want the face vertical here to be 16.5. And it is coming in at 16.4999996. Anyway, but I've had it where sometimes this will be 14 written here, and then this will say 16. So I'll need to get a confirmation on that. So that's why I kind of like to keep the numbers for a moment. They're trying to say that these letters are 4 1/4 tall. I'm getting 4.28, close enough. They're trying to say 3 1/4. For that, what I'll do is just take it over here because it's combined. And we'll just throw a purple on it just for ha-has temporarily. I'm going to break it apart over here. And then I'm going to grab that. And that's coming in at 3.45, close enough. It's probably the roundy guys. Yeah, closer to 3 1/4 there with the square letters. But we don't need you. We'll deal with you in a second. 3 inches at the bottom, 3.05, good enough. And then we're saying overall, we're going to grab the top and the bottom. Is 59.91523. Yeah, see, that makes me itch. They want 60. So anyway, we're going to clean all that up. Side view is 5 1/4. That agrees. And we've got, what, 4 1/4? Perfect. So these are right. The side views are looking good. 3 3/4. That checks. Right. There you go. Cool. So now we can get after cleaning this up. So first thing, like, we don't need you anymore. Thank you. So I'll just go through and just kind of get rid of all this. Yep. go on get. Oops, just you. There we go. And there we go. Looking good. Now we don't need you. Thank you. And we don't need you. All right. So now what we're going to do is take this, and I'm going to use that as a takeoff to build the actual real stuff. So I'm going to use rectangular. So if you use rectangular, you have X and Y, these buttons here, those grab the values. So I'm going to grab the value of X, which is 26. Cool. And then the value of Y, which is gross. So what you do, the other part of these are all hidden because I just did it on my own real quick. I know what's up. But I get 0 points for usability. So now if you hit Y here, it rounds it up to the nearest from 0.5 up, it goes to the next. From 0.4 down, it goes to the lowest. So that cleaned that up right there, right? So if you hit Y, it gets rid of the nonsense. So now I have 26 by 54. If you hit 0 degrees, that gives you a 0 degree tilt, rectangle. What's good about it is it's also named. So it's called rectangle 26 by 54. And you can find this later on if you need to. It's not just a rectangle like this. That is just rectangle. There's no name. You can't find that later. This is the same as this. If I try to find these things, these all show up the same. So I'll never be able to dig out that, but I can find this rectangle by name now because it is the only rectangle named that way. Plus, instead of it being a rectangle, but you have to convert it to curve to mess with nodes, everything that comes out of rectangular is a curve automatically. So that way you can just grab nodes and go for it. See, we're all good to go. So anyway, now this is where I also start to choose color coding so I can know the difference between stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and go with red right here for the main body. It isn't that I normally do that, but usually red and blue are the main body. So let's say we do a shoebox, right? You guys are doing shoeboxes. I'll do the outside red and I'll do the part that goes against the wall that tucks in blue. That way I can know different. And then everything that has to do with this part of the sign will have a red outline. So I can then follow it through as I'm building it. I can keep track of all the parts that have to do with this. And then I go from there to purple for anything else. And then I work my way. And then black, because if it's just one component, if it's just a skin or a face or a cover that doesn't have other multiple parts, I might just keep it black. Those are usually skins or just covers. But everything else that might have components that you need to keep track of that are part of this part, I start to go color code. So we'll just do the main guy here. We'll do him red. And then let's do the top box here. We're going to resize that though. Let's get that size true to size. So I'm going to go X, which is gross. And then I'm going to do Y. So again, now if you hit the rounding off, it's going to round it off, like it gets rid of that. So if you want to keep, you have to actually type. I don't have it that smart. I could go in there and code it, but I didn't. And there's 27. So it rounded up to 27. So that's good. So that is our sack top box. And I'm going to go ahead and say blue for that. So that's going to be that guy. And then it's kind of tilted off that way. So I'm going to start it here, because I know my tilt is there, and then I'll figure out what that is. Now I have a macro for that. If you go up here to the top, or if you go to go time over here, E is for edges. It's an edge machine, so you can see edgy there. So if you take this guy and this guy, right? If you take two, you can only do two at a time. So from this edge to this edge. So if I do the top to the top, how far? That's 2.78. So I'm thinking they want 2 3/4. So we're already lined up. So I'm going to go 1, 2 on my nudge, and then I'm going to go 3, and then I'm going to come back a quarter. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's quarter. So again, I have my nudge set to 1 inch, and then control is a 1/16, and super is a foot. So that keeps it again, and I don't mess with it. If I need to move things, I have move it over here. Move it is on my selectable nudge without having to type. I can nudge anything I need to just that quick. So I don't have to mess with my actual go under the hood here. I don't mess with that. And I don't go up here and change my nudge up here. Yeah, I know everyone's screaming, well, all you got to do is come up. No. I don't got time for that. All right, so we're going to go back over here. I'm going to use edgy again. We're going to grab this and we're going to grab this. And now I'm going to go from this edge to this edge. See, boom and boom. How far? And we've got 1.67. Usually I like 1.5 inches just to keep it even numbers, but it seems like we're getting weird here. So I'm going to go ahead and make the call to keep it like, let's do 5/8. So we're going to do 1, and then we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1/2 inch, 9, 10, 5/8. So let's double check that from this edge to this edge, and we have 1.625. And then again, just to double check, we have that and that. So there we go. Nice even numbers. So this is what I'm talking about, cleaning this up. So now we got that cleaned up. Now let's grab bottom skirt boy here. Yeah, see 24.5 gross. And then Y is supposed to be 3. So if we hit this, that should clean that up to 3. If I hit this, so it's going to chop off. So I'm just going to get rid of that. There we go. And that's what we want. And now I've got blue. I got this. So let's make this homie purple, because he's probably going to have multiple parts. So that way we can keep track. Now, if you hit on rectangular here, I have bottom of shape, which Corel doesn't give you. And then I have C for center it up. So you can just hit B in that, and that takes that to the bottom. Now, I know the keyboard shortcut is if you hit B for bottom like that, that's what Corel will do just by hitting one key. But in order to get that to the bottom side of it, where the top of one edge, you know, it's right here, right on rectangular. All right, save. Always forget to save. Fangs go through the roof or through the floor, and then I'm like, eh. Okay, so now we can make the side view, which we need. So we can grab Y, because I grab this, I hit Y, that loads that up. And then we hit X, which is nice though. Don't have to clean that up. So we're good to go. And then we match that. Again, that's Y. So we know that's blue. So that keeps track of that. And now we can load up Y for that. And we can hit this and go X, and we can go bam, and we can hit red. Now we know that they're justifying it to the back, and it's to the bottom of this. So we'll hit bottom of that, right? And then I have it over here on Tartarus. That's a line right. Oh, no, that's not to the bottom. It's the top of that. There we go. There we go. Cool. So that's that. And then this homie is Y by X, which is 3 3/4. There we go. And he's purple. He does go actually to the bottom and centered. There you go. So now we have our version and we have their version. Now, the other thing I'll do is I'll just grab this just to keep it. We'll deal with that in a second. And then we'll take this and we'll keep that, and we'll be dealing with that in a while. I don't know, about a second. This, now again, this is why I like this. I have the record here. Vinyl address copy. See, vinyl address. So that's that. So we don't have to mess with that. So that is not in our scope. That'll be done later by our homies. So that's taken care of. That's taken care of. We'll work on that. So yeah, that's it. So thank you for your service. Save it up. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this kind of in the center-ish, and then I'll start working from there. Okay, so now the decision has to be made. How do we want to do this? Do we want to build a box like this and then have it wrap down the side and then try to build out the face and fake that? Because you have to build the face out this much. So do you do like an L box that's this wide and then try to fill that in with a little funk there? Maybe, but that could be a little bit tedious. Honestly, the way I've done this before is, and it works out okay, is that you make this its own box and you notch this and you essentially make a box from here right to there. And then the only thing you have to dummy up is this little section here. And then that way it's a little easier that way, because that way you can just make, because otherwise if you're making this L thing, you've got fiddly bits and you got weird jiggies, and then you'll have these fiddly bits that have to be a certain depth. And if you don't hit that mark, then it could have issues. So you're better off, if you can, you just make a box. Nothing's more simple for us than to make a 4-sided box with some jiggies and we're done. So awesome. That's it. So I think that's it. I think that's our way forward. So let's go ahead and do that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to oversize this, because if I'm going to make a box sit onto this box and we're going to lords it, then we need clearance. The rule of thumb for lords that I always go with is 0.01. So 0.01. And so you use contour machine, which is that target thing on go time. It's right here. If you hit outline and then you hit 0.01 right here, it puts a 0.01 and it's named so you can find it again. So I'm going to use that to chop this cat right here. Boom. Let's go ahead and trim. Trim's right here on Mr. Goodbar, so you don't have to go up and find it like an animal. And then we're going to go ahead and grab this guy and do the same thing. 0.01, right? And then we're going to trim this homie. Actually, you know what? We might need both views. So yeah, so we're going to bring this over here. And that's going to be this view, because I need to leave this homie right here and right there. So actually I can get rid of that for this view. Oops, this one. There you go. All right, save. But this guy, we're going to go ahead and act like we're looking at this side. So this guy wins over here. So we're going to do that. And we're going to trim this. There you go. And then we're going to get rid of that guy. Yep. And save. Cool. So now we just need to figure out how we're going to dummy this. It's much easier to dummy this piece. Plus, what we can do is this long piece here can be contiguous all the way up. So when you're looking at it from this side, there's no seam, right? We don't have to mess with the seam on this side. It'll be nice and clean. And then this side will just be what it is. So what I'm seeing is a box here and then essentially a box here. So we'll work from there and there. And then we'll figure out how to get a jiggy up in here and do that and attach the box to that. So, all right. So let's just make this box real quick. So while we have contour machine out here, so if you hit down at the bottom, it's called one shot. The one shot essentially puts all you need around. It has the inline and everything for the clecos and all that. So you just grab the box and you hit one shot. Now, if you want a 1-inch flange, this is where you change it right here. You have a 1-inch flange or you have inch. It's default. If you open contour machine like that, bonk, it's default to 0.9 and it's default to 1.5-inch flange. Now, all you got to do is try it like that. Looks good. I mean, it's a little fat for what we got, but I think it'll be fine. Probably could get away with an inch flange on that. But honestly, for this, we're going to leave it. And then what you want to do is check that the nodes, the starting node here and here are in the same corner. And then that allows you to hit Magic Machine. And if you go to Tools and you hit Jiggies, it automatically puts the jiggies and the nuggets that you need to do alignment. So I'm going to grab this, and because we don't want a seam, well, it doesn't matter, it'll get bondoed, but you're better off putting the seam to the top. So this is that side view, the nuggets. So the nuggets will go there, bonk, and then this guy will be the seam there. So now the seam's on top rather than, I mean, you could, there's nothing wrong with that, but you will have a seam right there that will cut across there, right? And then that has to be bondoed, and it's just a bad look, literally. So we'll go ahead and just put the seam to the top. That's what these nuggets allow you to do. The nuggets allow you to choose, who wins, what side goes proud, what side is deferential. There you go. Snap to, can't stress enough. Make sure your snap to is set to the maximum grab. Like, you get it within a foot and it wants to snap. It just makes things easier because you're node to node. That's what you want. And again, you set up your razor here. You just push this button. This is how you turn snap to off. So if I just click this button, then snap to is off, right? But if I just click the button on my thumb right there, it's right back on. So again, point razor. Okay, so now I can get rid of this redundant inline here. There's a black line there. I can get rid of that. And then this is the layout for the clecos. So now what I'm going to do is going to do the jiggies. Now, what I can do also is kind of decide if I can use jiggies in other places. So I'm going to make these jiggies kind of universal for all corners that I can use them for. So I'll have these corners and I'll have these corners here. So these jiggies we're going to cook up, we'll be able to use in multiple spots. So then I'm going to grab this inline rectangle, right? And I'm going to grab this inline rectangle. And then I'm going to hit break right here on Mr. Goodbar. and that's going to go for break curves, and it just breaks them all apart. That way you don't have to go through and go control. I don't even know what it is. And it's just this, you got to jump through hoops and you got to right click, and yeah, I ain't got that kind of time. So now, save. So over here, circles 165 at the top there. That's going to be your Cleco hole always. You live and die by 165. And then I go an inch, nice and easy, right? Duplicate, come down an inch. There we go. And then we're going to go over, yeah, sound like Jay Leno. Okay, so now we're going to go over here, and I'm going to start off of this node, and then I'm going to go, again, I have my nudges at 1 inch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is usually where I like to call it. If you look, it's just sort of proportional. This is going to be not that, it doesn't have to be super beefy. If anything, I bet we could probably get away with 4, but let's do 5. 5's good. So now we have 5 this way, and now I come down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Man, let's just go ahead and do 1. There you go. So 1 inch down, bonk, right? So you see what I did there? I started with this corner. That allows me to set this way, and then I went this way. And now I have that set up, so I don't have to actually go over and type or something, and I have even numbers. Okay, now I have all these different colors, but I reserved, for whatever reason back in the day, I settled on green being jiggies. So green, so I would suggest doing that. Just save green for jiggies. That way, when you see green, it's a jiggy. Now I'm going to go 90, and actually, we can just grab, hold on. Yep. We can grab this dude, and we'll make him go over there. I liked about like that, whatever. It doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah, so let's go ahead and do that as 270, and then we'll flip it, and then bonk. There you go. The reason why I said all that down here is I have this all set up so you don't have to come up here when you're trying to rotate a shape and coming up here and type numbers like a gross animal. I have them all hot. They're all hot banging down here. Got the buttons ready. So now we're going to go ahead and weld this together. Now, if you hit this will name it through shape, and then you hit weld. Now it's named a through shape. Now we can find it. Otherwise, it's just a curve, and it will get scraped by accident later because it looks for that kind of stuff. Now I'm also going to throw a chamfer. So I have way over here in the corner of the screen, I have radius machine and I have chamfer. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a 1/2 inch on that. Yeah, let's do that. That's good. Okay. So there's our first jiggy save. Now we can just copy paste that boy or girl, however it is. And then we go like that, and we can strip the nuggets out. We don't need those, but now we can group it, and then we can just flip it, wax it, milk it, all that. What's up, Beastie Boys, right? So we just make sure that goes in that corner there, and then we can just come over here. There you go. And then we can just go like that, flip it over. And then again, we just snap to bonk, grab that node, bonk, nodes. Good, thank you. That's it. So now we've got that box pretty much made. 16 inch by, I'm pretty happy that it wouldn't need you could go up there and bonk it, because we're going to do a 09, but whether or not we need a brace, I don't know. So if you go to the inside, right, because this is the 09 on the side. So you take this guy and you get this measurement here like that, then you can go ahead and load that in there. And then you can come here, scroll down, and then grab, let's see, 1.5 inches. There we go. And then we have Magic Machine open, so we can go ahead and hit 90 guides, 0.090 guides. We can bonk. So do we need that? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But why not? We'll see. It might be in the way with we'll have to move it, or we have to, it'll probably be right where some studs need to be. But let's go ahead and leave it since this we're learning. So just like we did with this, we're going to go ahead and start in this corner, and we're going to go 1 over, and then that's our 1 inch. And then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably like that. Now you would say, well, why don't you just use that? Well, because it's a different shape and it's a different function. So if you're doing these mid braces, you need a different jiggy. 1, 2, 3. Really, that's all we need is 3. It's just a short little weird guy. So it's different than a corner guy. Now we're going to hit weld. That's a through shape now, and we're gonna make it green because it's a jiggy. So we do that, and then we're gonna go ahead and put our 165s on the cross mark there, and then we're gonna come over to where it's about there. That's good. Then we're gonna grab this guy here. Just trust me, we're just gonna hit this, and we're gonna hit jiggy right here. We're gonna turn this into a jiggy so we can find it later. 1, 2. Believe me, you need an 1/8 clearance. That's all you need. Then you're gonna go take this guy, and you're gonna make this guy go 1/2 inch. So I'm gonna go over to move it. I'm gonna do a 1/2 inch, and then I'm gonna go like that. A little too, there you go. So there's your mid brace. I'm gonna go ahead and group it, and I'm gonna flip it. And then because I used this guy to go 1/8, I go 1, 2. Now we got that. We're good to go. So there's our brace for that. So this box is pretty much complete. And then these cleco holes will be plenty. Those are plenty good. Let's go ahead and ungroup. And then let's see how far apart. We're at 8 point. That's about, that's pushing close enough. That's almost too close, but it is what it is. Usually I don't want to go more than 12 inches apart for cleco holes, but we'll be using these jiggy holes for the face holes, for the face for jiggy, for lordsing. Okay, so we got this box ready to go. Save. So now we can use, these jigs to make the rest of this box. Now what I did with if you do the inline one shot on this, it could get problematic because it's skinny here, and it'll throw the node count off when you go to make the jiggies like these things. So what I do sometimes is go ahead and make a disposable box that will get you what you need. And then you can go ahead. So I'll use this to do the layout for the one shot, bam. And then I'll deal with this here in a minute. But now I have this guy and this cat, right? And then we can go ahead and hit the tools and hit jiggies, and we get that. That's what we need. But we can adjust this now that this is built. So we'll go ahead and go do these corners though, for sure. And again, this guy's gonna win because we don't want the seam right here. We want it to hide up here. That way you never have to deal with it. So that way when you're looking at it from the side, clean. So make sure that guy goes long, this guy goes short. And then same thing down here. We'll put the seam towards the ground. Nobody will see it. Perfect. Bonk. Okay, same thing here. Okay, now this, we'll just leave these homies kind of ready to go because I'm now going to sort of mess with this. And so let's do like we did with this though. I'm going to send this to the back, to the bottom of the page. I'm going to get rid of this black inline. Don't need it. Bring that back. And then I'm going to break these apart. Right? Am I? Yes, I'm going to. Right? Break. Yes, break curves. Okay, cool. So there's that. Oh, got to adjust a little bit. And cool. So now we already have our jiggies made. So we can go ahead and rob and steal. Come down here. And even if you were to leave these nuggets and go ahead and duplicate them, that's fine. They'll all get dug out later anyway. As long as it's the same, because this guy's long and this guy's long. So, and you can see the colors too, the blue, the blue and the green. So that way you can kind of tell at a glance. You want to be able to glance real quick. And then we're just going to go ahead and flip homie over and bring him over here. Right? Bonk. There we go. All right. And then we're going to do the cross braces across here. Now I'm thinking we can maybe get away with one. But let's try to support this face, and it's just one more piece. It's only 4 inches wide or whatever, so it's one more piece isn't going to make the end of the world here. And it gives you more to weld to, makes it stronger. And we're going to be running a post up the middle, permanently posted in, so posted. All right, so now I can grab. Let's go down here. I can grab this distance. So this nugget tucks against there, bonk. And this nugget, so this is the inside piece we need. So I'm going to grab that for X. And then I'm going to go ahead and do 1.5 inches. I could have transferred that 1.5 inches. I was a little quick on that. Delete. There you go. So now that'll bonk to the inside. Like that. There you go. And then we go over here and hit the 090 guides. That turns that into that. And now we have our lines and everything. And so we could, like I said, we could theoretically, but that gives us sort of a drum, bonk, bonk, bonk. And in the heat, it could sort of bow up and out. So I think I'll just help stabilize it by giving another one. Now what I like to do is, now that I have this guy up here, this guy, and then this guy or girl, now what we're going to do is do the vertical centers. Since this is a 1.5 inches, this is 1.5 inches, we can do centers. So VC is vertical centers. And I understand you can come over here and do some kind of incantation, finger gymnastics to get that taken care of. But if you just hit that button, so you got vertical spacing and vertical centers. And then same thing, horizontal centers, horizontal spacing. So keep that in mind. Save, save, save. Okay, and now we can just grab one of these homies and group it. Go ahead and turn it 90. There you go. And then it goes bonk here, but we know that we go 1/8, 1, 2. And then we come over here and we go this way and we go 1, 2. There you go. Save. And then using these jiggies to align, because we know this little pink jiggy that we made, I know it's magenta, calm down. We can go ahead and duplicate it, and then we can just hit this and hit T for top, and that will line up there, and then that jiggy stays within the O9 there. So we're good to go. All right, so looking good. Got that all fleshed out. So this is where maybe in between these guys, so what I'll do is I'll grab these and I'll ungroup these now. And I'll grab these and these and I'll ungroup. I'm thinking maybe that might be a little long. Yeah, 16. So I'll just do one more, and here's your horizontal center all day long. And then you can hit this guy and hit E for even. There you go. Save. So that'll help lords it. So that's a lords clico essentially when it comes time. And then same thing here. So since we have this line is free, you can go ahead and hit this as a duplicate and then just line that up with E there. And then same thing here. Line that up with E. There we go. Between here and here, 10. We're probably okay. I don't think we need one right there because that's just more bondo. It's a balance. You don't want to get too crazy because that's just bondo, bondo, bondo. There we go. So now let's deal with this. What I'm going to do is get this cat. So I know that it's 1.5 inches. So I have it over here on move. If I go down to the bottom, 1.5 inches is in the custom spot. I go like this. If I select that node, there you go. So I just nudged that node over. And then this cat, we're going to run them all the way up. However, we need room in here, but I'm going to go ahead and take this and we'll deal with that in a second. And I'm going to go ahead and grab these and then just snap to, boom. Okay. So that we're fleshing this in essentially. Okay. So now, we're going to go ahead and get this out of the way. So I'm going to grab that and then we're going to also get this maybe out of the way, but I think this is going to come back and bonk into this. But now I'm going to run these. Yeah. I don't know. Well, we'll see what's up. So we'll run them up and we'll run this guy up. Right? Bonk. Okay. So that's starting to flesh that in, but we can't have just a flap. We're going to have to put something in there. We're going to have to do jiggies and whatnot. So I'm thinking what we're going to have to do is actually make a custom shape to this where we're going to add a node right here. Oops. And then we're going to bring that down to intersection right there. And then we're going to go ahead and do that again. But then now we're going to move. We've got to move it. Right? Yeah. So we're going to align it to there. But while it's still hot, we're going to go 1 inch. Yeah. And then we're going to come back though. 1, 2, 3. Actually, we probably want to do it this way. Yeah, so 1 inch that way, but come back 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 3/4. So 3/4 and 3/4. So let's go 5/8. Yeah. So now grab a line, bonk, and then this cat is going to go here. There you go. So this piece is going to actually be sort of a custom. It's still going to get bent the same way, but essentially that's what it's going to look like. So it switches. So it's an 1.5 inch framing, and then all of a sudden it's going to go skirt, and it's going to switch to a 5/8. Yeah, a 5/8 frame. So it's going to be a tiny little 5/8 box around with its own jiggy. And then we're going to go ahead and make a little cap, and then we're going to make another 5/8 frame come this way. But I think we'll be okay to actually make this go back to 3/4. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cheat, make that, but I'm going to go ahead and hit the button jiggy, and I'm going to change it into a jiggy there. And I'm going to go bonk, and I'm going to match his buddy here. So since this is 6 5/8, then I come over here to move. And if you move that 5/8 and 5/8, that's a 45. So there you go. So now those guys are meeting on equal terms. And then this thing is a little distracting. So I'm just going to go ahead and move that down. There we go. So now I'm working. And then, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and set up some nuggets here. So I'm going to go 90 on this cat. And because that guy's going to win, we'll send him to the back. And then it's kind of funny. My layout machine is the opposite of what these come out as. So when I do my jiggy thing, the vertical ones are green, but then I force myself to have to do that. So I'm going to go over here, go bonk, and then we can make this jiggy go all the way across, and that will just represent that top piece. So I like that. And then this part here will come all the way down. Right? And make sure that we don't cross that gap and get some weird shape. And then we're going to come past it. That's fine. And then we'll just grab those two nodes and we'll come back and align. Bonk. There you go. So that's that piece. And then we have this space in between for tacking. So you know what? I think maybe we will take it back out to 3/4. Maybe 1, 2. Maybe not. Nah, we'll leave it like that. That's good, because that'll give space for tacking, and then we can grind it smooth. So now let's make this little cat. So since we know it's 5/8, so I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to hit X, and I'm going to hit X, and I'm going to make a square that is 5/8. And I'm going to go bonk, right? And then I'm going to go across here, bonk, and then hit jiggy again, and I'm going to turn it into a magenta jiggy. So magenta is kind of saved for these disposable. All of these parts are going to go in the trash, but they help you lay out the piece. So that's that piece right there. All right. So now we need to shift. So we're actually going to be shifting our spacing. So we're going to leave that there, and we're going to leave this cat there. So we'll bring that back to normal, kind of like how it was. So that's sort of that. So this jiggy, I have a feeling we can modify this. So this guy's going to go into this corner, but then he's going to get a weird growth. And I think we're going to make like a custom jiggy off of the back of this guy. So we'll get there. So this guy's here. So let's go ahead and do what we need for this. So you know what? Maybe I'll just grab this and I'm going to hit duplicate, and I'm going to run it up, and I'm just going to have it split this, whatever. Or, no, not that. Okay. Yeah, right. This one. There we go. So whatever that is, yeah, that works. 5/16. Got it. So I'm going to run this up. You all the way down here. Yeah. Okay. Bonk. Yep. I like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and put it here. And then I'm going to scooch 5/16 over here. There you go. So this kind of transitions from our normal jiggy to that. But this is all going to be, that is all one piece right there. So you can see the weirdness we're going to have with this. If I grab this and I go like that, see, that's our custom piece with the jiggies. So kind of cool. All right, so this guy is still going to be, so he's still going to bonk. So we know we got him because he's going to be coming across. He's this piece coming across all the way. And then, yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah. And then we know that we got to scoot that back an eighth. So there you go. Because this is similar to that. It's an eighth back because this will grow a 16th and then that gives us a 16th. So we got to use that gap. So this guy is a corner guy like that, but then he's a side guy like that. So a little confusing. See, I knew this would be a fun one. Right? So we got that. We got that. We've got our nugget up here. So we just need to make that. Let's just make that go all the way up and come back. Bonk. And then let's make sure that goes all the way up and back. Bonk. There we go. I like that. And then we should theoretically at that point then be able to just do that. And then you hit inline and that turns that into an inline. Then it matches its buddies. So now we can do our cleco holes. So this guy's just going to have a single cleco in the middle. Then it's going to be this little tiny baby piece, but that's going to be the cap. And then we can do the same thing we've done here, down an inch. And we go ahead and do this guy down an inch. And then we can go ahead and just kind of guess it for a minute. And we'll come down to where it counts right across there. And then we'll just grab these guys and then we'll do horizontal centers, right? Or vertical centers. There you go. And then we'll just have this guy line up with that. There you go. I like that. What's our spacing? 6. Yeah, plenty. Plenty. That's good. So now we have this little nugget guy and we have this custom jiggy thing that's going to happen. So let's take care of that custom jiggy thing right now. So we're going to grab this corner homie and we'll see how he works for this sort of corner jiggy. Bonk. Okay, so now we're going to adjust our fire because this guy's going to be a weird custom boy. So he goes like this, and then we do a 1/2 inch for these. And then, yeah, I like it. Since he is custom anyway, we'll go ahead and extend that just 1 more inch just to give it some strength. And then that goes there. Okay, so now we start building the face view, but now we need to start filling in the side view to see what's going on. It makes it easier, but there you go. We're framed. This is just going to be a basic box. It's 3 inches the way it's drawn. Sometimes what I like to do is just give it an extra inch so that way they can backfill. So that way it's not exactly an inch, exactly 3, and then it just looks like it's magically floating above bark or whatever. I give them an inch. That way they can kind of bury it a little bit. So we're going to do the same thing here, except this guy, because he's so small, we're going to do the contour machine, but we're going to go ahead and do an inch on the one shot right there. Because that's all we need is the 1 inch. Now I have everything selected. It's already selected. I'm going to hit jiggies. Bonk. There we go. Same thing. So we're going to do solid pieces on the outside. Keep our seams to the top and bottom. Same thing there. Beautiful. Right? And then we'll be able to, you'll see, you got a little trick here. You'll be able to, instead of laying out, you could lay out fresh. But what you can do is we'll grab a couple of these corner jiggies, even though they're too big. And we can see if we can go ahead and like modify them. So, you know what? No, this thing's small enough. But sometimes you want to just go ahead and connect the two. You're not going to have a separate jiggy for this and a separate jiggy for this corner and that corner. So what you do is just grab this and go to the inside node and then go to the bottom node. And then we do our thing where we go 1, 2, 3 inches. Yeah, that looks okay. Or what you could do to make it more solid, just in case, is you could just do a solid piece of 090 inside across the entire thing. And then that way it's completely supported because you don't need to get inside of it. As long as you don't need to get inside of it, you can actually just, put a whole piece there, tack it, and it's super solid. However, I don't think we need to go that far. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, let's do that. And then like there, and we know the jiggies are green. There you go. And I'm going to go ahead and call it a through shape now, because right now it's just a curve. But if I do that, now it's a through shape. So it doesn't accidentally get thrown in the trash when Super Scraper does its job. So we're going to do 1 inch and then, yeah, good enough there. we're going to go ahead and break these apart, right? Like we do. So that way we can work with them separately. There you go. So now you have this separate line and these lines. So now you can do this and you can go like that. And then you can go like this. And then you can go like that. There we go. I like it. Save. Now we just grab this and go flip it over to the other side. And you know what? Because all of this is identical, I'm not even going to worry about it because we can just hit duplicate checker. And if we just do like this and hit dupe checker, it grabs all that extra stuff we just did and we're good. Save. Okay, there you go. Got jiggies made. Oh yeah, so we'll do that same thing here where we're just kind of holding down that skin. So this is for lords. There we go. Like it a lot. All right, so now what we're gonna do is build out the side view so we kind of know what's going on because we'll need that for when we decide where to put the connector, because now we need connector holes that will help us lock this piece into this piece. So that side view is necessary. So now what we do is grab this, we hit the extruder machine, right? And then you hit the X for the X, so you don't have to type it. And then we know that this is Y. So you grab this one and hit Y and Y. And then this is the thickness we're using. If you hit make extrusion, there you go. And it's named everything. And then you make it the color it is. So you go like that, like that, like that. There we go. Now you just go ahead and hit that, center that up. You hit this one, just center that one up. And then we do go ahead and just hit this. We hit mirror and then we send it to the bottom. There we go. So those pieces are all laid out. So now we can see what's going on vertically. And then we can also see if studs, you know, how it's going to affect, if there's studs in the way, et cetera, et cetera. And then same thing here. So now we already have our 1.5" loaded, but we just need to change our Y or our X. So we make extrusion, but it's blue. And then it goes top and centered. And then we just go ahead and flip it, send it to the bottom. There we go. All right, save. That's it. And then this guy here, he's like, don't forget about me. So he's X, but he's only 1 inch tall. So we'll grab his jiggy there. There we go. And then he's purple. There we go. And then I guess we could go ahead and duplicate that over there. So we go ahead and take this. Since we changed this to 4, but we didn't do that. So let's grab, let's just grab all of it, I guess. And then let's go ahead and make sure we're grabbing the right node, landing on the right node. Yeah. Yep. There we go. And then hit duplicate checker and get rid of that extra box. There we go. All right. Oh, that's that. We do have a little bebe. So this is going to be this bebe piece up here. We can do that just to have it. Oops. Where'd you go? To the top. Except, oh, that's right. This guy is actually only this tall. Aw. He's just a little wee laddie. He's cute. Look at that cute little guy. Look how cute he is. Top center. There you go. So that represents that little homie. Takes care of everybody, I think. Now we can make a top view as well. So what I can do is take this. Now we have our thickness and we can go like that. And then we line it up with, well, you don't have to line it up yet, but we can grab this piece, right? And then that gives us a X, and then we can grab that Y, and then we can make that. And we know that that is a blue box. So we line it up with that, and then we line it up with this, and then that's the top. And now we can take this guy and load that there. So that's the view, that's the top view there. Now is where we add those jiggies that like go like this, that we get bent, and that way they attach. So what we do is grab this, and if you hit BAM right there in the center, BAM will just make a square around whatever is selected. So if you select this and hit BAM, it makes a square around that. So you grab this and then hit jiggies, And then what you're going to do is move this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1/4 inch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1/4 inch. And then we're going to make a 45 by scooching 1.5 inches and 1.5 inches. Now, this looks a little beefy, a little bit big. So what I might end up doing is changing that up, and we're going to do X, but we're going to, or Y, but we're going to do a 1 inch because that's all we really need for that. So same thing though, that, and then we're going to go that, and we're going to convert that to a jiggy, right? And then we're going to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That has extra clearance for the break, but we're going to bring that over 1 inch. There we go. I like that. Then we're going to grab this, go in the halfway point at the 0.05, and we're going to go like this. And then we're going to bring it back and bonk. There you go. And then hit inline. There's our Cleco inline. That's looking familiar probably to people who watch. And then you're going to go ahead and hit the left, this one right here, the L. That moves to the left, and then that goes to the center. Come on, come on. There we go. So I like that. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and group this thing separately. So we're ready to work with it because we're now going to be using that essentially. Well, let's go ahead and do it because this is what we're going to put on the ends of all of these bad boys. So flip 90, top center. Oops. Well, this guy's shrunky boy. So we're going to bring this a 1/2 inch, right? Yep. 1/2 inch. And then we can go ahead and hit shrink a 1/2 inch here. Shrink on both sides. There we go. I like that. So we go ahead and hit that, duplicate, top, duplicate, flip, bottom. There we go. Do we need it for these guys? Maybe. It gives that extra rigidity. It does. So I think I'll go ahead and do that. I know it just adds more break time, but it does make a difference in making things line up really good. So, and it is that size. It's perfect, but unfortunately we do have to shrink it. So we can go ahead and just get away with probably 1/8 or 3/16. Let's do 3/16 on this. Okay. And then we could just go ahead and shrink this like that, bonk. And we can go ahead and shrink this like that, bonk. Okay. And then group. And top. There we go. Okay, so that's side view of that. Save. And then side view. Well, so this guy is true to size for the blue. Top center. And bottom. There you go. We got it fleshed. That's how you do it. So now what we're going to do is run the tube up the center. So the tube should be right about here. I do know it's going to be 3x3. So you come over here or on your go time, there's this square right here. This is how you make tubing. So if you go 3x3 and then you choose the wall. So we'll probably get away with 1/8 inch wall on this, but it doesn't really matter either way. Probably go 3/16 though. It's just a little more stronger, but it will depend on if the magic bucket, because magic bucket will provide. So that's just our scrap bucket. So sometimes we can build whole signs just by what's left over and drop. So I'm going to go here and then we're going to go Y. That makes a little square box there. And then I'm just going to drag this to here. So, and I like to keep these even numbers for the boys. So it's not, you don't have to get a weird tape measure out. So I like 36 for this. So let's go 36x3. And then we'll go ahead and send that to the bottom. And then let's do, oops, yeah, we'll need that in a second. And then here's where I know that we're not going to have like structural engineering or anything, but we're going to go ahead and do a 3 foot to the bottom. See what happens? Sometimes you pick the wrong edge. There you go. Okay, so there's that. So you got 3 foot in the sign, and then we'll have 3 feet sticking out. If install wants to chop a little bit off, they can, but I think that's a good, it's a percentage of this to that. I like that. So 36 and 36 is just a 6 foot piece. There's probably a chunk laying around. That'd be great. So now what you do is take this 3x3, but now we have to clearance. We have to make the thing that allows the post to slide through. So go ahead and hit bam, and then grab that bam, right? And then we're going to oversize it by 0.06. So over here I have offset. If you hit go at 0.06, that will give it 03 all the way around. So that's this guy, right? Then what you do is hit up here. It's called the tagger, and tagger will put the clearance holes on the side. So I have 1/8 inch bit, 5/32. I always do quarter. That way Jose can use whatever bit he wants to use. And then I'm going to go ahead and make this blue just because I like blue. And then I'm going to hit group, and then I'm going to send it to center, and then I'm going to actually center it on each of these. So I know that this has to go, that has to be punched. So each of these things needs to be punched. There you go. And that's that. So those are the push throughs. That's the chunkies there. So now we need to lay out how this actually attaches. So I use the 18th rivet, the 0.18. Thank you for your service. We don't need you anymore. So 0.18 rivet lives right there on Mr. Goodbar. So you're going to go ahead and line that up, and we're going to come over an inch. I like that. It's an inch right there. And then let's go over to this one. We'll use that as an inch. Good enough. Right? And we can go ahead and line that up like that. There you go. On the edge of that. I know. So it's an inch and an 09. That's fine. And that's going to be both Cleco, but then they can also use that to nail it down, whether they want to use a rivet or a screw. Because they're going to end up probably riveting and screwing this together with Lords and all that. And then we just have a nice spacing. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my horizontal center, clean that up. And then what's my spacing? 7.5-ish, whatever. Okay, that's good. I like that. And then now I'm going to do the same thing over here, because that'll connect to this piece here. So I'm going to go there, and I'm going to go up to the top, and I'm going to go ahead and go off of the node of the nugget. And then probably only need 3. Yeah. And then we're going to do vertical center. There you go. I like that. So now we have this view is on track. So now we can do the spacing left to right. So go ahead and copy this guy, bring him over, and center it up in this cat. And then because this guy sticks out, so we'll center it to this one. So we're going to do 1 and 1. That's a little too close together. I want to be able to nail this flange a little better. So let's do half. And I like that. There you go. So it's 1.5 inches over, 1.5 inches over, 3 across. So that's going to be that. And then we'll just follow that up that way. So that would be on this view. Right? So we can just group this and center it to the top and center. There we go. And then what we'll do is we'll just run this up this way. So that's the layout. See what I'm saying? There we go. Done. So that's that. So this pattern will then be put onto this piece. And then this pattern will also be put onto this piece. And there you go. It matches together and everyone's like, yay, like that. That's the sound they make. Alrighty. So yeah, just that fast. Now let's handle, so because we're getting a little bit long in the tooth here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop for now. And then I'm going to handle the flat cutout letters. And then we'll go ahead and spend the time breaking these out into actual parts. Like we do, start making actual pieces and utilizing the macros to make all this stuff. So yeah, we can actually go ahead and yeah, we're going to be making that. Yep. So all of that stuff, you know how we do. So anyway, that's it for right now. And then well, I'll break it up into the next one. Check the